episode 3, not episode 5. So
Oh, Jesus.
we should be good now. I'm just refreshing the channel. There we go. Still says. Anyway, if you were on about something, Evan, go ahead. Continue.
I really wasn't. I was just waiting for you guys to get back.
Mhm.
I think we were just talking about kind of just
now we have a viewer. Cool.
If you can get an extra gun for somebody, or a backup for yourself, that's not a bad idea. Which was something Tom was talking about, but obviously you don't want to do that at the expense of good safety equipment and sort of comfort things like good footwear, which are going to be much more useful in the long term. And what we were talking about before too was just making sure that you're not immediately blowing your entire monetary wad on a gun that you think you might want, but you really don't have any idea about yet because you haven't really played enough.
Right.
And I think that's a very important point for new players is you got to play some before you really understand what you want to do. And you're not going to know that until you just get out there. And I think a lot of guys, they're taking a video game mindset to it and going, oh, yeah, well, I want to do this because this is what I like to do in Call of Duty or Battlefield or whatever. And, what's the right word? The analogy or the comparison there really is not the same. So, just because you really like sniping in a video game doesn't mean you're going to like it as a airsofting tactic.
Right. I was just about to say a medic in something like that is a very different animal too.
Oh, yeah. And honestly, I think an airsoft medic is probably more fun than
100%. Yeah.
Being a medic in a video game, unless, you're doing something super realistic. But how this all ties into tactics is...
Hey, Tom, welcome back. We're good now. I screwed up earlier.
How this ties into tactics is you
can't hear you.
Oh, boy, Tom. You got to know what kind of game you want to play before you can get a gun that's going to match that.
Absolutely.
So if you really like running and gunning, you find out a sniper rifle is not going to let you do that. If you really like being sneaky and silent and high speed, low drag, and all of that, a light machine gun is probably not going to be a good option for you.
I was just about to ask if you wanted if you want a more low speed, high drag, right?
Yes, exactly. I mean, you're going to get some guys out there who are very, very physically fit who can kind of do that. Maybe they could still be high speed, low drag and carry something like that. But your average player is probably not going to be to that level. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just you're not going to have a good time.
How about now?
Perfect.
There we go.
There we go.
What that was about. Sorry, everybody, a few technical difficulties, mostly on my part. Yeah, we had 2 viewers for a brief minute, I think, before the first crash. I don't know if one of them was actually me just monitoring on the channel, but whatever. But yeah, Evan, I was just laughing because, yeah, you have the physically fit players. I was just thinking of certain ones like an old friend of the field, regular at the field, who didn't give a shit and just brought his 2-wheel cart with his 3 coolers all the way to his hard spawn. Which is, I respect that more than almost anything.
Oh, yeah, man. He knew his limits.
Yeah.
So
played with it.
I think that's important from a gameplay aspect too. But
yeah,
all this really is sort of just precursor or prologue to actual tactics. But again, the type of player that you want to be and the type of weapon that you have is going to dictate the type of tactics that you're going to need to use.
100%.
Those two certainly feed off of each other, and you're going to be more or less successful with particular tactics if you have a particular type of gun. And that's I mean that sounds obvious, but I think a lot of guys just kind of get caught up in the whole, oh man, I'm buying this gun and it's going to look really cool and it's going to be awesome, and they forget, oh yeah, at some point I'm actually going to have to do carry this thing around and use it effectively to have a good time.
Or God forbid, take it apart with this being a teching show. I mean, there's a
Yes.
lot of other
Yes.
fun, weird guns. As soon as you stray outside of, M4 or AK territory, God, are some of these things dumpster fires inside. I mean, even just for, I'm obviously in the long list of proponents of reasonable players who don't rip open things like the gearbox if they don't have to. But I mean, if you want to give the barrel a good cleaning on an MP5,
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely guns out there too that just have weird idiosyncrasies that.
so yeah, I guess what that was getting at within like a, in a distantly orbiting way was that, and I've been telling guys for years in terms of what kind of guns to be looking at right out the gate. Nothing bad really comes of doing, doing a deep dive or two and just figuring out if at least if you like something else about the gun, making sure it's easy to work on. Because again, even $140 gun, that's, in this economy, trademark copyright, is a couple of bucks. I mean, if you're not gonna, I would think most people aren't gonna throw it out if the hop up acts up or something else.
Yeah, and I mean,
So
it's
just
it's
be
always
ready
good
to.
to, it's always
You don't
good
want
to
to
do
create
your
problems
due
for yourself.
diligence in terms of reviews. Reading
Yeah,
reviews of, you may say, oh yeah, this gun looks really cool, and then you start reading reviews on it, and it's fucking dog shit. Um, I had that happen multiple times where I was getting ready to buy a gun, and then I'm like, oh yeah, this gun is awful, and I'm not, I gotta find something else that I want now.
100%.
And then there's certain guns like the TM Uzi, which I knew were going to be garbage, and I didn't care because it was cool.
Right.
But the difference there is that I went into the purchase knowing that. So all of that aside, getting back to what I was saying at the very beginning, it almost behooves you to get a lower end gun before you really decide to plunk down the bulk of your money on something that you really want. But I made this claim that getting a lower end gun is going to make you a better player in the long term. And the point of that is, especially now, with some of the very decent low end guns, is you can even try out a couple different styles of tactics with a low end gun. When I first started, I was fresh out of college. I didn't have a job yet.
Airsoft college, right?
Yeah, yeah, oh yeah, dude, yeah. I had to learn about how barrel increases FPS and
Oh, barrel length. Yeah, of
yeah,
course.
FPS equals range, and
Range squared, right?
how to make sure that if I got hit, I could covertly check to make sure that I didn't have to call it if nobody saw it. Um, how, what exactly on June 24th, 2003 Navy SEALs were wearing so that I could wade into an Arnie's thread and not get flamed immediately. Very important course of curriculum there. But my first gun was at the time there was this brand called UTG, which they make real steel parts to a certain degree, but they made some halfway decent airsoft guns, and I had a single shot or a single BB pump shotgun that they made that was like $40. Now these days, Sima makes these freaking awesome tri-shot shotguns.
I'm tempted to go get mine for show and tell.
Yeah, that I used that gun almost exclusively the last year that I played because I just liked it. And
I
if you
put .2s in it last summer, and we're hitting targets at a certain Doctor to B's real still range.
yeah,
Easily 200 feet, yeah,
oh
close to
dude,
200 feet.
at the Somalia game that we played a couple of years ago,
Oh, in Somalia, yeah.
I think I killed probably 10 guys in a space of 15 minutes with that gun because I managed to get behind them. They were all facing one way, and that gun's quiet, and there's 3 BBs, so you have a decent chance of hitting something. And it was pink, 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 pink. But the point of all this is having that Springer shotgun forced me to be a better player. I had to
Oh, yeah.
get closer than guys with AEGs. I had to be much more sure that I was going to get a hit because if I didn't, the guy was probably going to turn around and blast me.
Mhm.
And all of that resulted in me needing to learn how to be quieter and use the terrain more effectively for me to have any prayer of actually getting a hit on somebody. Now, like I said, those Sima shotguns I think even make it a little bit easier. And if you want to get a low end AEG, you can certainly do that and be more than competitive. But I actually think getting one of those cheap tri-shot shotguns and kind of picking up the fundamentals of the game that way is going to make you a much better player in the long run. Whether you're looking to run and gun, whether you're looking to be sneaky, whether you're looking to be a sniper, you're going to find applicable skills regardless. Because even if you're the run and gun type, if you can't get close enough to somebody to actually get in range before somebody else shoots you who's much quieter than you, doesn't
Yeah, you're
really
done before you
matter.
start.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I mean, that you can have the best AEG in the world, but if there's a more experienced guy with a Springer shotgun out there who flanks behind you and plugs you in the ass,
I was gonna say hides in the right bush. Yeah.
yeah, you're not going to get to run and gun to the guy you can see
So
because you're going to be just walking back to respawn all day.
next Paul's appearance, I'll have him tell the story about what the first year I got involved with our old field at Redbrook, the dusk portion of the pre-Halloween rotation. 5 times I ran out to the same bush where he was
Oh yeah,
sitting with a Mark 23 because I thought I was hot shit with my Mark 23 from Mike at the swap meet that I just pulled out of the bottom of a box, and he had his all silenced and ready to rock. Wasn't a bush; it was a decent sized shrub, and his exotic camos. I didn't see him until I was 5 feet away. Done. 3 more times I fell for it.
yeah, and I mean that's an example of good play.
Yeah, right.
If you have somebody who knows what they're doing and somebody who's just flying by the seat of their pants, so to speak, the guy who's done this before and knows how to use what he has available to him effectively is going to win every time. There's no question.
Yep.
I don't know if one of you guys wants to pipe in here now that I've gone off.
Yeah, Tom, I think you were about to say something like 15 minutes ago, right? I don't know what it was about.
Yeah, I lost
We were probably still talking about guns at the time.
Yeah.
I don't know if anything profound.
Yeah, nothing. I don't think anything that Evan didn't really cover.
Captain Retro, our old buddy Spencer, is tuning in as usual. He shared an interesting story of his origins. I think it resembles quite a few of ours.
I would, yeah, no, those old Crossman LPEGs did just fine for a lot of people. I mean, those were basically, the cheaper clones that you get like Dick's Sporting Goods back in the day. But I mean, like I said, the field is pretty open for pretty much all the lower end. I shouldn't say low end, probably budget's probably a better word. The Sima guns, like again, CM048, those AKs, plastic bodied, whatever, not the prettiest things to look at, but they shoot just fine and they'll perform close enough to a normal or like an upgraded AEG that you're really not going to be getting dumpstered on the entire time if you're participating in more direct combat. I'm not sure I mean, and I certainly advocate for having a tri-shot. I don't think that's a bad idea at all. I'm not sure I would advocate that being your first gun. If the budget is really a concern to the point that you need to limit yourself to a Springer Shotty, you might be better off renting a couple times just to see kind of what you want to do, and then maybe saving up some money and grabbing an AEG.
That's a good point that I will mostly co-sign, but I don't
only
think we
say
should write
that
off the players who have enough money for turbo fans, boots, and around about $80, which with shipping will get you one of those Cyma tri-shots off of Evike or wherever.
I would still say that you'd be better off in that case probably saving that $80.
Another $80 for a combat machine. Yeah.
Exactly. Again,
I don't know.
back in the day, I would have completely agreed, no questions asked, that would be a solid start. But these days, I think frankly, just over the course of the time that I've been airsofting, the level of gun performance, the level of baseline gun performance has jumped substantially. Especially with things like Polar Stars and other HPA engines. The concern about the concern about and the level of attention paid towards performance has increased substantially. So I think you might not give yourself a necessarily applicable experience. I mean, you can certainly challenge yourself. I don't. If you feel that you can tolerate potentially taking some licks, like some serious, getting, and really needing to work your tactics to start off, that you could probably have a lot of fun. I would just caution that might be a frustrating experience for newer players getting into it. Although if you're watching this podcast about teching, you're probably not the newest player in the entire world.
Yeah, it drifts in and out of being a teching podcast.
Enough.
I just don't want to update the YouTube channel description every other stream,
Yeah, or I guess if you're looking at Airsoft tactics, again, probably a little bit beyond the point of thinking about having like a Springer Shotty as your first gun, but yeah.
So in multiple respects, beyond the pale.
Actually, there was one other thing that Evan had mentioned, and that was the style of gun that you pick, sort of leaning into your tactics. I might disagree on. I don't like the fact that I'm disagreeing with it, but I would disagree from a pure technical perspective, just because for the most part, you're not really, like, a battle rifle is versus an AR doesn't really matter in this game. Like, an M4 is going to basically do the same thing as a G3, all intents and purposes. You can upgrade an M4 to do the exact same thing. You can downgrade a G3 to do the exact same thing. And unfortunately, and at a lot of fields this is the case, if you decide to shell out and buy something cool like an M249 or another light machine gun, really, apart from, again, I hate to say this, realistically, you can make an M4 with a box mag do the exact same thing. You're a dickhead, but you can make an M4 with a box mag do the exact same thing as an M249. Really, the only thing that stops that from necessarily being the case is field rules, where they might give somebody who decides to bring a support weapon beneficial rules, like you're allowed to use full auto, you're allowed to have bigger mags, things of that nature.
I almost said restrictions, but there would probably also be restrictions in that there were, a finite amount of these people per team. Right, depending. Sometimes.
I've never really encountered that, but yeah, it can happen. And then the side with sniper rifles, for the most part, you can make a semi-automatic HPA engine thing, like with the Polar Star or whatever.
Sure.
Perform roughly the same as a bolt action. A bolt action is way cooler. I have a bolt action sniper rifle that's like super, super quiet and sneaky. I could have made that out of a semi-auto gun and would have done the same thing, but it's not nearly as fun. But I think you can get yourself and I think Evan did mention this, you can get yourself a pretty good taste of most of the play styles and tactics that you would get out of buying, like, with a basic gun, before you go and buy something that's going to cost you a lot of money and potentially just kind of be a cool thing to, like, have, like an M249.
Yeah.
You can kind of master the whole support tactics if you have a couple of high caps and an AK, before you go and shell out for an actual LMG.
No, that's all true.
With
Yeah, I'll
limited
co-sign that.
exceptions. I would say that they're like shotguns. If you want to get into that, I do know a couple people that like shotguns are their main thing. That isn't really something that you can get with any old AEG. Like that's a little bit of a different story. But I would say like to my mind, the big main three that everybody kind of goes for, just like basic rifleman, light machine gunner, DMR/sniper. You can all kind of get those with basically any AEG. Grenadier and or like slash demolitions and shotgunning would be the two that I would think of where that's something that you need additional equipment and that you cannot achieve that with just a basic setup. Yeah.
Right, I mean, I guess you could find an old spring M4, like my rot box I bust out for the Halloween games, where you can hold the trigger down and keep pulling the bolt and use it like a blunderbuss.
Yeah, if you really
I mean,
want.
not to talk about a niche primary to be going out looking for. Is that still? I mean, if you can even find them, because I don't see them I don't see Dick's guns at Dick's anymore. But
Dick's doesn't sell airsoft
I
guns,
was,
so yeah.
oh yeah, right.
For the
Is
most
that
part.
still how? If you can find one of those like spring M4s, is that still how those work? Generally,
Pretty much any spring gun you
hold
can.
the trigger down and keep
If you
chambering.
I'm not so much holding the trigger down, but if you short stroke most AEGs, they will allow a BB to enter the hop-up unit without actually fully cocking the gun and engaging the sear. So you can usually, if you just like slightly pump a tri-shot a couple times, you can usually get a bunch of BBs in there.
Right.
Not really worth relying on because, heat of the moment, you're probably not going to be able to finagle it so it'll just get it right, but yeah.
Yeah. So, what else do we want to talk about tactics, Evan? Fill some. I got to step up for like literally 2 minutes. Fill some time.
Yeah, I mean that's a fair point, Tom. As far as the light machine gun, I guess I'm more coming from this of having the fucking Inakatsu, which was legitimately
Like I said,
an
I
LMP.
completely agree with you. I like you're a dickhead if you are the guy that's like, oh, I'm just gonna put a box mag on my M4 and be a machine gunner. Like you're really not, but and you're kind of ruining other people's experience by doing that, in my opinion.
And
I like having that versus multitude, but
I'm coming at this tactics wise of if you I think most guys who care about tactics are the guys who want to do milsim.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that.
And a milsim guy is, he's going to look at anything M4 based that's not like a Shrike,
yeah,
and go, get the fuck out. I'm not using that. That's stupid.
Right.
There is certainly a truth to the fact that a DMR, an assault rifle, and to a certain degree snipers are roughly the same. If you want them to be
right
in this game,
that's my thinking.
I honestly, any AEG is going to be more effective than most sniper rifles just by virtue of how BBs work.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
aerodynamics, but that's we're not really talking again. If you want to talk about how to be the bestors at Airsoft,
The ultimate goal.
That's a very different conversation than I think any of us really have any sort of experience with. I'm sure there's guys out there who could tell you, like, I remember one of the last times I came out, I went to an indoor place locally, and there was a fucking guy there who had some sort of bright pink high kappa with an adapter that he could put an M4 mag into it. It was the stupidest fucking thing I have ever seen in my entire life. But if you want to maximize compactness and ammo capacity, and you don't have to, deal with things like recoil or, ammo size and all that,
Hauling a big gun around, yeah.
If you want to, rules lawyer and power game your way through Airsoft, to steal RPG terms, you absolutely can. But I
power gaming, I think, is the right word for it. Yeah.
I say literally because they also Naruto run around the field in a hoodie, right?
For those people, your tactics are going to be know every corner of your chosen field that is the only field that you go to. Learn the map just like you would a COD game. Get the smallest, highest rate of
I
fire.
don't think they make learning the map a priority in the COD games.
Yeah, exactly. You'd be
Just for
surprised, man.
their first 400 hours.
And you get the smallest, highest rate of fire gun you possibly can, and you probably, get something loose so that you don't feel the hits as much as somebody else would, and you just
Run.
make the game miserable for everybody else who comes out to that field.
Correct.
And you have 13 GoPros, so you can upload it to your YouTube channel, so that whoever sponsors Airsoft teams notices you. And
Let me tell you this, Evan. They ain't sponsoring.
dude, I don't know, man.
we're looking for sponsors. So if any of them want to reach out,
No, I
we
mean,
need
yeah, I mean in terms of like teams or what, I don't know if it's like paintball now where, you can actually get sponsored by manufacturers and all that.
Oh
Garbage.
shit, like that. Yeah.
I don't really care either way. But that's not really the I mean, there's tactics there. I just don't necessarily think those tactics are exclusive to Airsoft. I mean, that's paintball tactics. That's Airsoft tactics. That's pretty much any competitive sport is basically learn as much as you can about the 10 maneuvers that you need to know to be dominant. And that's basically it. Tactics for an actual field game where you're supposed to be completing objectives outside of killing people,
Yeah.
or getting kills or whatever. I mean, if you spend your entire day just hunting people, and it's important to you to actually quote unquote win the game by having the most points on achieving objectives, doesn't matter. Most Airsoft games I've ever been to, and actually I can't think of any because there's no way to track it. It doesn't matter how many people you killed. If you killed everybody on the field 3 times or killed 0 people, it doesn't matter. All that matters is what
The objective.
Yeah, what objectives got completed by what team, how much were those objectives worth, and you need to actually use tactics other than kill everything in sight to do that. This does go back to not only with the gun, but understanding and this seems obvious, but understanding the type of game that you're playing. Is it a capture the flag game? That's a very different game than the games we used to do at Redbrook, where it was, okay, well, you might need to carry this from one place to another. You might need to hold this objective. You might need to find this guy and escort him somewhere. You might need to do, any number of a bevy of objectives that don't revolve around shooting things. And you have to understand what the goal of the game is before you can effectively modify the tactics that you normally use to meet that goal. And I realize that's a very analytical way of looking at it, and most guys are like, yeah, that sounds gay, I'm not doing that, I'm just gonna go shoot people. That's
Yeah, they're
fine.
just here to shoot people, right?
If that's the game you want to play, that's there's nothing wrong with that, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, go out there and from a traditional like team command standpoint, yeah, go out there and be my means to an end. I mean, that's really
probably
when you're
75%
playing.
of players.
If
when
just
you're-
zapping people is kind of your main reason for going out and playing Airsoft, which fair enough, honestly. Nothing really wrong with that. I'm going to say a lot of the time that's kind of important. If you're just skirmishing or doing something like that, it is the actual like most tactical level tactics of hit the other guys with the BBs so you can go and do the objectives. I think there's a couple things you can look at there. Sorry, not to kind of segue away from that, but just a couple things popped into my head as like immediate stuff that can make the game, if that is your goal, a lot less frustrating for you. Is one, working with another group of people. Pretty much, if you're looking at any even remotely, and again, if you're thinking about tactics, you're probably thinking more about milsim style stuff. tactics generally are developed in the real world, and a lot of them actually are fairly applicable to Airsoft, but tactics are developed in the real world for groups of people, not just for individuals. Obviously, it's beneficial to practice shooting drills and, practice your reloads, make sure your gear is squared away, things like that, but
Know how your hop-up works.
know how your hop-up works, very important. Know your gun, that's a good start.
Yeah.
But yeah, having a group of people to work with, even if it's just like two or three other people, you need a lot more done. Especially if you have good communications and you know how to communicate in a tactical situation. I think a lot of the airsofters are generally pretty horrible at radio discipline. Yeah, I've not outside of like Milson West, I've never encountered good. I mean, shit. In real life, I'm an emergency response. I've never encountered good radio discipline in real life either. So it's like nobody does that shit. But
How
you
sober.
You were there at the first real No Man Left Behind we did, Tom. Do you remember what Pete said?
I don't think I made this, so I'm interested. Evan's story time.
I don't think so.
This was 2006. Well,
way back. I'm sorry.
Maybe this never transferred, but I specifically remember this. I was running around with all the Delta guys, and Pete was running the Ranger team.
Okay.
And we ran across him at one point. The radios are going off. There's a guy behind that tree. All the usual garbage. And
guy behind the tree.
yeah, and Jimmy goes, hey, Pete, how do you think comms are? And he goes, oh, yeah, it's very realistic. It's just like real life. Everything's a fucking mess right now.
Oh no, I mean, like nobody remembers the basic stuff when the shit hits the fan, all goes out the window. I mean, unless you've drilled that stuff hard, or like you're an RTO in real life, you're never gonna remember that shit. So it does just turn into, hey, there's a guy behind the tree. Oh shit.
Was it at least allegedly Napoleon who said something along the lines of "No battle plan ever survives first contact"? Why would radio discipline?
Yeah, exactly. But no,
as two great armies of Call of Duty players clash. Proceed.
It helps a lot realistically, the way that this because I hate to be that guy who's saying, well, you should get on your own radio channel with just your own guys, because that can be a disaster in and of itself.
No. Shouldn't everyone be on their own channel?
No. Oh my God.
Every single person on the field should be on their own channel. So
that's why
nobody has to talk to anybody.
Well, I say a nice games stopped being manageable at about 44 players. So isn't that why there's 22 radio channels?
That checks out. Yeah. But no, you should realistically you should have a team leader or somebody who's in contact with, or an RTO or somebody who's in contact with the rest of the team, and then have everybody else on individual squad comms. Because, like I said, realistically, while it is also a problem when everybody's on their own individual channels, it's also a problem if everybody's on the same channel and is broadcasting dog shit onto that channel.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would disagree with that, because 90% of the time, everybody has radios that suck so bad that they're not in range, so I don't have to hear them.
Fair point. So problem sort of solves itself in that regard. Yes, I can't disagree with that.
Yeah. What you ideally need are NCOs with radios back to command and radios to their own idiots.
I mean, and radios that work. And, I mean, again, that shit never happens.
Yeah, no. And I will say, having been the guy several times that's walked around with earpiece in one ear, a frogman on the other, and my little clicky thing, and having 3 radios on myself, one talking to team comms, one talking to my personal team's comms, and then another going to a tank, it can be a bit of a hassle, and it does make it quite a lot more difficult to participate in direct combat when you have to manage 15 different radios and push-to-talks. So you don't want to go overboard with it either. But I do think that it is beneficial, and you would certainly not go. Assuming you can still get Baofangs. I think that there was hullabaloo way back when.
The Russians bought them all.
Fuck them. Yeah, right. No shit. There was some hullabaloo going around not way back when, but maybe a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, that they were going to be made illegal in the U.S. I don't know. You can still get them on Amazon, so you tell me.
Oh, can you? Yeah. I was actually wondering about that today, because a certain place that I frequent has a couple collecting dust behind a computer that they used to use. Anyway.
But yeah, no, I would say
I'm just gonna say,
yeah, go ahead.
Just on that radio point of going on your own channel, if you decide that you're going to go on your own channel and you don't tell your CO,
Oh yeah,
team
fuck you,
lead,
for sure.
and you don't tell the opcom, you're setting yourself up for not hearing index, emergencies, weather alert, any of that stuff. So
Absolutely agree.
it's dangerous, and B, if you do that, I fucking hate you, and I hope you have a terrible time.
Yeah, no, couldn't agree
Um,
more with that.
Yeah, I mean, I can only emphasize that more if you're playing at a larger venue, because obviously what was Red Brook supposedly short of 22 or just short of 22 acres, and that I think counted like across the street, which we never used. So thankfully, we could have a chain of not even of barely 2 people, pretty much yell loud enough for someone from end to end to hear. But I mean, a field 3 times that size, forget it.
Somebody in your group, if like I said, if you're buying a radio and doing that, you're working with the group. Somebody on your team, your small little team, should have comms to the rest of the team.
Yeah.
Even if your squad individually does not.
And I remember, I told people when I ran games, I said, I don't care what you do, but if you go on your own channel, I'm not responsible for you having fun, and I don't care.
You know what? Perfectly reasonable. Can't argue with that.
Because it was like,
yeah,
dude,
if you want to go radio silent, that's on you.
You're not going to hear anything. You're not going to understand what's going on. You're not going to be in contact with the rest of your team, so you're not going to know what they're doing. Even ignoring radios, if you don't have a radio, just be communicating with your team is something.
Buddy up with someone who does, try to communicate verbally.
Just I see a guy 40 meters behind the building
tree.
with behind the tree, behind the building with the red door. He's on the right side. That is gonna make you 10 times more effective, assuming you're guys that actually are gonna listen to you and listen to what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Just voice or oral comms, ignoring the radio, you're going to have a 10 times more effective and more enjoyable game.
Completely agree.
Yeah, that alone is obviously doing things faster and more effectively than a competent commanding team leader back at Hardspawn could do with 3 good guys over radios.
Yeah.
In terms of communicating at the front line level to do something like put down a target.
Really the point of overall comms anyway is for providing orders to individual squads. It's to manage the overall game and make sure people are having fun, but B,
right.
Okay, squad B is going here, squad A is supposed to be going here. At the intra-squad level, that's up to you guys what you want to do.
Yeah.
Trying to micromanage somebody who's at the other end of the field is it's not going to happen.
No. Yeah, exercise of futility.
But again, if you don't communicate with the other guys, if everyone's quiet, you're not going to know where anybody is. But if you constantly have guys talking and talking and talking, if one of them goes quiet, you can go, okay, is Jeff up or is Jeff down? And if Jeff's down, that means we have a shooter that we don't necessarily know about.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of benefits to communication. As far as just being, having a better understanding of what's going on around you.
Vital.
But also, just again, you're gonna be more effective if you're running with people who actually communicate. And if your goal is to be a Milsim player, Tom, how often when we were doing RSP stuff did the recruits just stop talking?
Oh, all the time. all the time.
And
When you get and it's understandable. I mean, once you start focusing on what you're doing, which is trying to point your gun at and shoot at a guy while he's shooting back at you, you get distracted. I am awful at multitasking. So it's like, typically if I'm leading a squad or if I'm doing anything like that, I'll usually keep a little bit of a distance back so I can sort of disengage to manage what's going on before going back out and starting to shoot people, because I know that I am like, my brain will be like zzz, when I'm trying to remember, like, oh yeah, how do I make an effective radio report, or like how do I call out, like, distance, direction, number of people, the usual stuff that you want to hear in an actual
salute.
Yeah, exactly, in a salute report. That I don't do it for a living. All that shit goes like right out of my head when I'm actually being shot at, so, and trying to shoot back. So it's like, you have to know how to manage that properly. And most people, their first instinct, again, once they actually start shooting at people and getting engaged in a firefight, is that they go quiet and they start focusing on the task at hand instead of communicating. And I mean, for me, what I find sometimes helps is just to literally be like, hey, like, to yell out to people, like, hey, start talking. Like, what do you see? Where are you taking fire from? What's going on? Give me a little bit of a situation report. And then people sometimes pipe up.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, if you actively
ask questions,
ask
basically.
questions of your players of, hey, what do you got? What's going on over here? Hey, FYI, there's 10 guys on the other end of the field from the other team.
I do that. I give that information. I'm just talkative, just like as a general rule, but I will, even if I'm not in like a leadership role at all, the first thing that I do when I get into, like, if I'm walking back from spawn, I get back up to the firefight, I'll like find somebody that looks like they're doing something and be like, hey, what you got? What's going on? Or if I'm taking fire, I just start yelling about it. Like, I'm taking fire from X, this direction, whatever. I'll get on the radio and start mentioning it as a report. Things like that.
Sure. Same here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was something that I found particularly telling when I was playing one particular game, and we had another guy who was leading the game for our team, and this was at Redbrook, and I snuck onto the far side of the field where the like on the other end of the creek itself.
Yeah, sure. So the far north side. Yeah.
Yeah, the far north side, where it's behind the other team's spawn.
Yep.
It's
towards the edge of the field.
You're out in the middle of it.
Oh yeah.
And I just sat there and was saying, I was basically just calling in what I was seeing, and at one point I said, we got 4 guys moving eastbound towards the East Trail, north south, and the team lead was like, well, I don't have anybody that I can come to help you. I said to him, I'm like, dude, I don't need you guys to help me. I'm just letting you know.
I'm just letting you know. Yeah, exactly.
And it was one of those situations where I go, these guys don't. It's not occurring to people that knowing where the enemy is, even if you can't engage them at a particular point, is useful.
I can think of a regrettably small number of times, but the times that it did happen, I'm like, holy shit. Where it's like, you get a radio call. It's like, we didn't engage. We just saw 3 guys crossing the gas line trail, and I'm like, wait, I'm on the gas line trail. Oh fuck! I like dive into the woods, like right then and there. Like that kind of stuff is extremely helpful. Or like I said, with the whole like, hey, what you got thing. Like, you walk up to somebody, you be like, hey, who are you shooting at? Or like, what do you got? And they'll be like, oh, there's a guy behind the barrels over there. And it's like, well, damn, I was actually just going to head over for those barrels, so I won't do that now.
Right. And
communication is key.
There's been times too where if you're looking to win, if you go, all right, I just saw 20 guys running towards Tarptown, FYI. That gives the team lead the opportunity to go, oh, if they're all going that way, and I know our objective is on the
that
other
way.
end of the
Yeah.
field, everybody book it for Batanga City, you
Right.
know, and now you have a situation where you can complete some of your objectives without having to get into a prolonged firefight, which, you know, saves your ammo, saves your battery,
Right.
And
well, if there's 20 guys converging on Tarptown, Tom, and there's no one else in the AO, they would have to send me and you, right?
Generally.
Right. Okay. I couldn't remember what our force projection was.
Yeah.
Proceed, Evan.
Oh, that was really it. It was just, you know, communication for the point of tactics can be immensely useful.
100%.
In terms of knowing, and again, if there's two ways you can look at that. If you hear there's 20 guys running towards Tarptown, if you want to run and gun, you go, I got to go to Tarptown. And if you're the sneaky, I want to complete objectives type guy that, you know, that doesn't, you know,
Yeah.
where the
You say,
yeah,
you say, I got to go plant a bomb in Tarptown.
yeah, or you just say, well, my objective's nowhere near Tarptown. That's awesome. I'm gonna book it up that West Trail as fast as possible because the likelihood of me running in any enemy opposition is considerably lower. You know, if I know there's 25 guys playing on the other team and 20 of them, it seems like, are going to Tarptown, the chances of me running into those other 5 guys is considerably smaller.
I agree completely, and I think like that kind of ties back into what you were saying before with sort of having the objectives of the game and like the op plan drive your tactics. Let information drive your tactics as well. I mean, if you pick up something on the radio or you get a report from somebody in person saying, "Hey, there's like 20 guys over there," that's going to have an impact on, again, like you said, if you want to run and gun, that could be I'm going to go over there and start shooting people. Or if you're running objectives, that's going to be I'm going to avoid that area like the plague and see if I can flank around. That can also sort of have an impact on like, or I would also say you should probably, and I guess it's sort of saying the same thing a different way, but let what you want to do, like if you're again running and gunning, for me this sticks out. The first thing that pops into my mind, and this isn't going to apply to very many people, but if you have like a really particularly niche tactic that you want to go for, like for me with the flamethrower, that's the first thing I think of. So like I have to, because that thing has like 70 feet of range, 100 feet of range tops. So, I mean, like I have to let the battle situation explicitly draw, because I'm not shooting at people until I'm extremely close to them. So if it's a situation where, you know, the two forces are still kind of 200 feet away from each other and just lobbing BBs, I'm like, all right, I'm just going to be sitting here until this battle gets a little bit closer, or I need to go and find a way to flank around. You should see
playing similar to Tri-Shots, which we talked about at the beginning.
Sort of, yeah. You should also see how, or evaluate how your desired tactic or your required tactic, if you're limited by your weapons platform. Think about how best you can integrate your desired tactic or required tactic into the situation that you're currently in.
Okay.
I personally think that's kind of fun. Like when the flamethrower is simultaneously a handicap and also like it's a one-trick pony. It's very effective at one single thing, and if you're not in that situation, it's completely worthless. So and sniper rifles can be kind of the same way. Lots of guns can be like that. I think it's kind of fun to try to figure out like, okay, like what do I do in this situation now? Like I got to figure something out. So try to integrate whatever you want to be doing. See how you can best integrate that into the current situation. Although, I mean, there's also something to be said for adapting your tactics to whatever the current situation is too. That can be fun. Both are good.
Yeah, there's multiple ways to make sure the math works out that you're greater than the sum of your parts.
Couldn't agree more.
Synergy is an interesting beast in that regard.
That was actually something I was just kind of thinking about as well. Important to know what your if you're working with a group of people, understand what their strengths are and what if their strength as a player, like if somebody's really aggressive and is willing and is a good good shot on the move, figure out how you can utilize that in a particular situation.
If they're a useful distraction for the rest of the team to go.
Hey, and they're not gonna want to kill you after the game is over because you were using them in that manner. By all means, I know lots of people that love that kind of shit. So yeah, absolutely make use of that.
The conscript experience.
I do that with the flamethrower all the time. A lot of the guns and stuff that I run generate a lot of attention. I make complete use of that. I'll just try to draw a lot of fire, or make some noise, create a big distraction for other people to go and do things. So, yeah, 100%.
Oh, I remember hearing that thing off in the distance. Oh, Tom's over terrorizing town again. I guess
that gets people thinking.
Continue towards the other flag.
Yep.
But Tom, it's funny you say how beyond a certain distance it's useless. That distance is. I mean, we'll have to throw like a firing demo or two just so when our clips channel starts at like 100,000 subscribers, because you're if obviously back to Red Brook, no one who's ever not been to Red Brook can attest, but there actually are some old tour videos on YouTube if you just look up Red Brook Airsoft. But the graveyard area, I remember we got into I think a 1v1, and I think we traded each other. But I ran out of one of the buildings, and you were further away than it looked, and you were still spraying things down
good. If you're really lobbing them, yeah, you can make that work for sure.
Because it shoots enough of them at once and far enough to be a problem. It's probably overall comparable to a tri-shot in input down effectiveness.
I would say I could probably get a little more. I mean, you're really reaching past 100 feet with anything that isn't a normal AEG.
Oh yeah, if this was 100 feet,
you could do. I feel like I could do a little more precision with my tri-shot than the flamethrower. But yeah.
Yeah, but that's not the point of a flamethrower either.
No, hell no. Completely agree. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Again, it goes back to what your whole goal is with the game.
Right.
And I think there's something to be said for, especially if you are open to it and circumstances allow. There's a lot to be said for switching up your tactics from time to time. I mean,
100%.
It's a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun. Agree. Completely agree. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just dropped had an idea for a project. I wonder if anybody's familiar with it. The Delisle, which is a silenced 45 ACP Lee Enfield bolt action conversion. With Thompson parts. I thought I want to make one of those. Or I want to make something that's functionally equipped. Yeah, if you can find one. Actually, if you go on the XE page, you can probably find the picture of mine. I want something that's functionally the same as that. Short range, dead silent, completely the polar opposite of my usual tactics. And it was a ton of fun figuring out. I basically ran that thing for an entire season straight. And it was a ton of fun having a complete change of pace in terms of what I was doing. Really cool. And obviously, you have to have the means to do that. But if you can, would strongly recommend that. And I would say, over the years, I've cared less and less about, winning and more for me it's more about the actual experience of making my own equipment and stuff like that. Kind of find what you like and figure out if it isn't, because your average Joe can pick up an M4 and go out and start playing Airsoft. If you really want to get into it, see if there's maybe a little niche or a challenge that you can kind of have for yourself that you think might be fun to get into. For me, it's fielding my own equipment, or sort of using Airsoft as an avenue for other hobbies to make their way out into the world. So, find what you like.
Absolutely. Sorry, I'm just trying to throw up. Oh, I gotta turn it on. Finally, the screen share feature on Restream cooperates with Windows Photos, so I don't have to share my whole screen.
Whoa.
And seeing me talking shit on various Facebook groups and divulging where all our content comes from. So yeah, that is the XE Delisle. Definitely go follow Explosives Enterprises Airsoft if you haven't.
Actually, a lot of fun in H3 VR too.
It is.
Yeah,
for sure.
From what I've heard,
Tom, just
plenty of other interesting projects on the Explosives Enterprises Airsoft page as well.
Somebody just put an auto mag mod up for
really.
H3.
I'm amazed it's not in the game already.
I was too, but then again, they just added the AR-18.
Yeah, fair enough. I saw that on YouTube the other day, so kind of a shocker.
What did the AR-18 look like? I'm Googling.
The AR-18.
It's like a stamped AR-15 kind of thing.
Different system of operation.
Basically,
any non-MC, if you see something that looks like
What
an
the
M16
hell?
in the hands of a IRA member,
It's an
and it's
AR-18.
not an M16, it's an AR-18.
Seamus, skip the AR-18.
Dude, that's one of those guns along with the AR-180. And technically somebody did make an AR-180 conversion kit that was stupid. I think it was Smokies, and it was stupid expensive.
I believe it.
But that's one of those guns that I like. The AR-18. I wish somebody had actually made a model of that, and it would have
Yeah.
been. It's kind of like the
It was popular enough.
the,
Surprised that nobody has.
It's kind of like the Carl Gustav. Like, it's such a stupidly simple
The
gun.
recoilless rifle or the 45 subgun?
No.
Wait,
The
handle
M45.
subgun?
The
Yeah.
M45. Where it was like, it's a tube with a pistol and a mag, kind of like the Mac 10. Like the Mac 10 was a little bit different because there wasn't enough space for a lot of stuff to actually make that gun and still have room for like a battery or gas or stuff. But
You don't need those.
the AR-18 and the Carl Gustav M45 were like, why has nobody made this? It would be.
It's like, how long did it take us to get a even remotely decent grease gun? I mean, it's just like these, like, it's like a gimme. Like, how the hell has nobody made that yet? It's baffling.
Or the
When did who made the grease gun and when did it come out? I kind of vaguely remember
ICS
now.
has a grease gun. I think they're the only ones still that make them consistently. There was a couple other companies that did
it's
for
like the Sterling though.
time.
That came and went. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
same thing. Sterling takes friggin' forever.
Sterling took forever, and
that is begging to be a gas blowback.
Did you ever see that? I forget who actually ended up making the Sterling, but they actually made like a eHobby Asia exclusive version that was the L34.
Oh, really? That's pretty. Yes, I did see that. Yeah, actually,
Paul sent it to me because he's like,
yeah, those made their way out into the wild.
Oh my god, it was so hot.
Octagon Airsoft had a couple of those. Yeah, no, they were very limited run though. They were sick looking though. Couldn't agree more.
Same with like the Beretta M12, like that, or the Spectre, or the Tech.
Yeah, they're in movies, they're in games. Like, again, surprisingly it took that long for those to exist.
And I mean, some of them, like the Spectre, for anybody who hadn't played GoldenEye, like I kind of get it. Like those were not very popular guns, which is why I think we don't have more Calico M960s, sadly.
Sure enough.
But I mean, just from the giggle factor, like,
or a micro Uzi. How in the ever loving fuck has nobody made a micro Uzi gas blowback? That has. I mean, Maruzin did years ago, but it's just like, huh?
Does that imply there's there's ones besides gas blowback? There's like an AEP out there.
I mean, conceivably there could be, but
it's probably more like Springers.
Short answer, or to shorten my question, does anyone make anyone make one at all right now?
Yeah, Springers.
Oh, Springers. Yeah, that's.
And LPEGs.
Odd gun to
go
with Springer or LPEG.
Like really serious LPEGs, like AA battery LPEGs, but yeah.
Oh wow, yeah.
And that's it.
None of that 9-volt shit. Are there 9-volt LPEGs? Like that kind of that would be kind of.
I actually have I have an LPEG gearbox over here that I was.
Oh god! All right, Tech Hour.
I was
so
we
might as well for our zero viewers.
I'll
open it up to a tech Q&A. So
I couldn't get it to run on. Like I was running 4 AA's on it because like, oh yeah, that's what like normal.
That's what normal people do.
Yeah, and then I was like, it was not working. It couldn't get full pull. I thought the thing was seized up. Because I have a little project idea for this thing, and then I'm like, hey, you know what the hell?
Battery.
I'll try. No, literally, I was like, you know what? The hell with it. I have a 12-volt power supply. I'll try overvolting it and see what it does. And it ran fast, and started getting hot, but it ran fine. And I was like,
fast.
What the fuck?
You do got it.
So I just put up a 9-volt battery on it, and you could tell that was the exact rate of fire that it was meant to fire at. And I'm like, that's fucking weird. So I had to write 9 volts on it so I remember the next time I go and actually try to use this.
9 volt.
It runs on friggin' 9 volt.
Oh my god.
Oh, tremendous. Oh, glad we at least figured that out somehow.
Yeah, thank God. Somebody out there in the internet going, oh my god,
if for some baffling reason you have a taken apart Uzi LPEG, yeah, they run on 9 volt. They don't run on 6 volt.
Fucking putting in work here, Tom.
Yeah,
there you go.
I'm not. So, Well, we've done an hour. You guys about ready to wrap?
Yeah,
That
whatever.
sounds
You guys
right
about
to
that
me.
time? I'm down to hang for a few, but we'll just do
Yeah.
that ourselves until if anyone's interested in hanging with us in future shows, though, hit up brokengearsairsoft at gmail.com for our top secret PayPal address, and you can send us a transaction of $9,999, explicitly labeled as a gift in the notes
Rubles.
section. At
Rubles.
which point
I
you
only
get
take
access.
rubles.
Shut up.
Yeah.
Run it through the currency converter. And I have things to pay for. I'm sorry you don't. And you can then hang out with us in our private chat. But until then, we will be off to our own little domain. In
I
contrast
also
to our
accept
zero duty.
precious
Well, we have a
metals
viewer now. Never mind.
for
We're
what
going
it's
5
worth.
more minutes. Okay. I start shilling and a viewer shows up, so I got to see if this continues. Well, we didn't really open it up like we usually do. What's Evan? I know you're mostly checked out, but Tom, what do you got going for projects that you're at liberty to discuss? Anything interesting?
Probably saw it behind me here, but it's...
Or you know what else we haven't done in a while? Any gems as far as threads go on the subreddit? One time.
I don't actually go on
Project.
Reddit that much. I don't know why you get that
Oh,
impression,
okay.
but nothing I've seen that blew my mind. But yeah, and no complete disasters on Facebook either.
Interesting. Okay.
Didn't Arnie's finally die?
I sure the fuck hope not.
What actually was that, a forum?
Arnie's Airsoft is
Yeah,
still,
it
was-
as far as I know, it's still going like a classic PB code style forum.
Because there was always some sort of dumpster fire on there.
Yeah, they were still relatively popular, for a forum, relatively popular as of like a couple months ago. I was browsing on there.
Oh really? Oh
Yeah.
man, that sucks.
Arnie's first
really
first result is
I
Arnie's
really wish
Airsoft.
you had died.
Let me.
I'm gonna say it right now. Controversial opinion, possibly. I hate Reddit. Well, the community.
Look at the
itself is
first.
kind of a trash fire,
Look at the first result, guys.
Oh my god.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
right.
yeah.
Yeah,
Those
taking a
right.
field
those
trip.
Brits on there.
Taking a field trip.
Hey, they're still there. Yeah, look at that.
Airsoft. Oh, of course they got front and center.
Remember Belladonna, who would get banned once a month on there?
Oh, okay. It's I thought you meant a forum. I was like, what the fuck? No, absolutely, yeah.
And then they'd always let her back on because she was one of 3 women that existed
Correct.
in Airsoft.
That is exactly right.
Oh my god, yeah, there was some
Crazy times.
Yeah, it's like
it was if you wanted to go somewhere and then wanted to have to pour bleach on your eyes afterwards, go into the SEAL gear thread.
Oh
my god, dude, it was
kill me.
always just
I always thought that
I
Airsoft
hope-
forum was worst. ASF
I hope
was
I can-
much more egregiously bad than Arnie's was.
I don't know. I just hated Arnie's.
Then again, Arnie's is full of Europeans, and that's kind of a problem.
Well, it's full. It's not only that it's full of Europeans; it's full of Brits, and we all know how Brits think that they're way cooler than everybody else.
True.
RE Brexit, and they were always like, oh well, and, all the Americans on there were always like, yeah, you guys fucking suck. And
Oh, hell yeah, guys. I had to wait 15 seconds between keyword searches. These were the days of the forums.
Wow.
I'm trying to find this Navy SEAL gear thread.
oh my god. The thing is too with Arnie's was it was it was interesting because you always saw how the Brits did stuff, and it was oh yeah, we don't have FPS limits and nobody wears fucking face masks, and we're all there's a good reason we're all missing teeth, and it was
As our British viewership just goes from 1 person to 0 people.
Well, our viewership hasn't gone from 1 person to 0 people, so we've narrowed down the country.
Clearly,
that
yeah,
from.
anywhere but the UK, yeah.
Guess what? If our viewership went to 0, I wouldn't be sad, and I don't care.
Well, you know what? I shouldn't say the UK. That's it's just the British. Because if they were Welsh, that'd probably be fine. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was always the British, not the United Kingdom.
British so-called people.
It was always there was always something going on that you're just oh my god, these guys are fucking idiots. And or full of themselves. There was legitimately really cool shit on there, the some of the custom jobs that people did and stuff like that was legitimately cool, but majority of that forum was just like, holy shit, dude, this is people online.
Thankfully, I think most of those people who were shitheads on, because like I said, as of relatively recently, I've been on there, and the community was actually pretty good. I imagine it's because most of the people who are complete shitbirds either A, don't play Airsoft anymore, B, died of a drug overdose, C, have made their way over to other means of communication like Facebook and Reddit, and that really
Telegram.
only leaves the people. Yeah, sure, that works. WhatsApp.
Communicate exclusively via likes.
Yes, and that basically leaves the people that were like diehard actual forum goers, which now that I say it out
It's about
loud,
50-50,
doesn't really sound any better.
Yeah, I don't know. For whatever reason, I was never a fan of Arnie's.
Yeah, I mean, back like I said, back in the day, I kind of agree with you, but I really didn't really go on that many forums apart from Face Punch and the Wino
Nile.
boards. So
yeah, it was something else. But,
I mean, shit, even our little corner of the internet had its ups and downs.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying like Niall was any better. I mean, we had our share of degenerates and morons. And,
oh, no doubt.
You know, I was among them at times. But
remember Chucky?
Chucky,
man.
Chucky.
The out east guy.
Oh, remember War Bride?
Yes. Yeah. I wonder what the fuck. What those guys
were they don't drop their actual first name, but were they of relation to War Child?
No.
You're never gonna guess what Chucky was his call sign. You're never going to guess what his name was, though.
Oh, okay, well.